Yesterday's conspiracy theories, tomorrow's headlines. Most are still asleep and I ain't talking about no bedtime. The truth is not a Google search, you need to get your head right. The Greek goddess of illusion was called Media I'm not a coincidence theorist, I look for thread lines. Smashing every deadline, no longer smashing red wine. Though I can hear the bells chime, it feels like the end times. That probably should have been smashed on red wine. But the carnal mind is foolish, obey and end up ghoulish. Don't get used by instinct, take control and learn to use it. Make a load of earnest music, earn a few quid, learn a few tricks. Sure, the truth is persecuted, this whole world is pure abusive. Know a bit about everything and everything about nothing. Figured out my noggin while you picture out shopping. You sit about watching while I dish it out. Stop it, I don't mean to sound cocky, I'm not even proud of it. It's a second nature to me, just to be this out honest. I don't even need to sound honest, never been about profit. Everything but out on it, you can bet your house on it. Doubt I'll be out for the count when the sounds, and I'm down for the beat, no beat down. I mean, how long's it been? Help me out. I've been the only one who's held me down. All in the mind, hell freeze now. Still sick with it, healthy how? Few bars down and the world freaked out. I don't reach out, I seek out to speak out. I'ma recount the reasons they beat out. I'm not the way, no way. I have seen the way. Speak, repeat, there's no way.
Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the 509 Divine Pines podcast. I'm your host, Up in Smoke, Joseph Daniel Pena. Hey, man, raise your glass, whatever you got, for a toast tonight, man. It is a good night, November 4th, 2025, and I'm here with Jim Gale. We are having a vibe, man. We want to go ahead and regenerate your mind, regenerate your body. We got to do it through nature, and so that is the nomenclature of today, man. I always love rhyming when I'm high. Yeah, it's that musician in me. Thank God for my granddaddy up there. Yep. So if you guys could like, subscribe, and share, and you guys want, please donate to 509 Divine Pines Cash App, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. And please go to the GoFundMe and really help out this winter and this Thanksgiving with the GoFundMe project of the Thanksgiving meals that we are giving out. We are partnering up with multiple companies. Old McDonald's Farms over here in Washington State donated. I'm working with Yakima 420 Club. I am also partnering up with Chillin' Sorbets. I believe it's a all-natural, vegan-friendly sorbet company up in Tri-Cities. So it's an amazing partnership. Multiple companies are getting on board, and what we want to do is give out meals to people who are, economically impacted or just, need a helping hand, because that's what we do here at the 509 Divine Pines podcast. We we give love, man. We give love, and it's endless out here. It's infinite when you're with God, and when you're with the good vibes. Like, this is what we want to do. Please go to the GoFundMe. You will see it, and you will see here 509 Divine Pines or Joseph Daniel Pena. You could type it in. You could also go to my TikTok, 509 Divine Pines, and it is along the videos. You'll find it. I could also DM it to you if you guys want. I'm gonna drop it down here in the chat, and thank you guys. For everybody out there, this is Jim Gale. He is over there in the East Coast, regenerating soil, regenerating minds, regenerating souls. And that's what we want, man. If you could, Jim, tell them about yourself for all my new viewers out there. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Man, I love what you stand for. And that's exactly what we stand for, is let's regenerate this world, right? We are at war on multiple levels, and the problems are apparent to everybody. There is almost nobody in the world right now who doesn't see that we have some bad crap going on. And the good news, that's the bad news. The good news is that we have the solutions. So my name is Jim Gale, and people ask me, how did you come to this? And the honest answer is failure and desperation are what got me here. And so I was a wrestler in college. I was made the Hall of Fame. I was a national champ and a 4-time All-American in college. I then traveled around the world. I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, and that was epic. And then I traveled and lived in Africa and Asia and Karachi, Pakistan, and all sorts of places for a while. And then I wrote my goals while I was traveling, and I didn't know much about money. My dad was a pipe fitter, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was 15. So that's what I experienced. And I wrote that I wanted to have $3 million in 3 years. And I got home from travels and I was dead broke. And my friends all said, "You're effing crazy, Jim. That's not how it works." Well, about 4 years later, I started a company that right then. And 4 years later, the company did $1.3 billion in revenue. I then bought a 42-foot Carver motor yacht and lived on the ocean for about a year. And then I moved to Costa Rica, and that's when I red pilled. That's when I learned what was going on in the world. And at that time, I had had my first two daughters. I now have four daughters. And when you're a parent, you start looking at the world in a different way. You start asking new questions. And the question I was asking is, what's the world going to be like for my kids and my grandkids? And I was deep down the rabbit hole at that time because I had just woken up. It was 2007, actually. And I went into a period of scarcity. And I started investing every penny that I had into trying to find the solution, because I believe that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That was Napoleon Hill, who studied the most successful people in history. So anyway, I went down all the rabbit holes, and I'm almost done ranting and rambling here. And then I read Bill Mollison's quote. Bill Mollison was one of the founders of permaculture, which is an agricultural design science that has all the solutions. And his quote is, "Though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple." And I started to sob. And from that moment until today, from 2007 until right now, I have been intensely focused on bringing the solutions to the world at scale.
And I think that's the way we go forward. I really do. We couldn't help ourselves if we don't heal ourselves and the places around us, because I do think that the whole idea of nature and creating a goal, so we put our mind to it, but the nature around us also hears us and vibes with us and grows with us, where like a really damaged environment is going to create a very muddy type of stagnant, maybe aggressive type of soul, and just put you in a very weird state of energy, right? You're constantly seeing death, torture, in the wrong streets or in the wrong areas, and you're looking at the wrong, horror movies, just imagining that type of thing, or your house is cluttered and you're just like not caring, there's all sorts of mess everything, and you're like, whatever, careless, reckless. Even the garden, right? The garden, if it's just straight up dirt, and you can see these houses and these soils and gardens that are not cared for, and I wouldn't say it's directly a representative of their spirit, but just like the energy that which they surround themselves with, and kind of a careless, reckless. It goes in all ways, where if we start healing our environment and we start producing better energy from within, then it goes a longer way and it's more successful for the whole community, instead of a very destructive type of pattern that's being allowed in the environment constantly over, and a very, in these gun afflicted areas, and drama afflicted areas, and it's like just creating death, violence, and a repetitive cycle and even in these, let's just say, toxic waste areas where these oil companies are releasing these BP spills, and they're not really caring about cleaning up. It's just creating death, and like trees aren't growing, animals aren't going there. And it's just the cycle of life is not producing it. And it's even a spiritual thing, where households who don't care about producing positive symbolism, words and things, are constantly creating a matrix of darkness with their habitual love for sin, murder, horror movies, and dark, pentagram symbols, and then things get weird and wicked, right? A spiritual hex in a sense, because they're not really understanding the power of the environment and the power of what we surround ourselves with. I posted a quote, or I believe yeah, just a couple days ago. The IQ of those who you are around will resonate onto you if you have open ears. So it can go either way. Low IQ, if you're listening to them with open ears all the time and you're not really understanding and you're not really caring, or if you are and you're just constantly loving it, and you know you're stuck in that. You know, people love it, like the low life vibe, right? But or even like not really caring about their physical health. You know, it's a lower esteem type of built into them. It's in a sense, and constantly surrounding themselves with that creates some type of it's a bad thing. But you know, it's what we can heal. We can start fixing a lot of this in society, and healing humanity by, you know, tending our soils, tending what we see, what we speak, what we do, what we drink, what we act upon, the music we have around us. Like for me personally, I know that the music that I play for myself has shifted from, I used to listen to all this like gangster toxic rap, you know, murder, sex, drugs, rock and roll, f bitches and things like all this, and it put me in the mindset to go party and go have fun and not really care about anything. And I see that in society. But now I'm listening to a lot of Christian stuff. I'm listening to a lot of positive stuff, a lot of peaceful type of things, and it's reflecting on my decisions in life. Where I'm now going to my garden and healing my garden. I'm now meeting positive people like you. I'm now going and actually fixing my community by starting food drives, and it's like it's not just a coincidence. It's you heal your environment, you heal you. Like my gut's healed, my brain is smoother and better than ever. It's like recently I've been so calm and focused with my mind, and I'm dominating in this Madden 2026 online. I'm like ranked 256 in the world, and it's like I'm not even putting in effort like too much, but it's fun because I feel like just in the flow state, you know, positive flow state. And so enough about me, man. Like this is what this is about, though. This whole energy of healing nature, healing our environment, and it's a reflection of how we can benefit our lives and create goals and be impactful in society.
That's exactly right. We are here to be the stewards of this earth. Right? And that's what we're here to do. We're here to care for and protect and to serve. And when I learned what is possible, it was so inspiring that I have dedicated the rest of my life to it. And that is not giving up anything. In fact, the dedication to service and stewardship and the creation and manifestation of abundance all around me has led me to here, right? I'll just do a quick, this is my family homestead. And we have this homestead now is completely off the grid. And it's dark out, so you can't really see what's going on here. But we produce all of our own food, water, and energy needs here on site. We built this home without asking for permission. We did not get building permits to build our home. And we do not pay taxes on the land, very publicly. And I've now been on 700 or 800 podcasts and radio shows, and I have shared with millions of people and the government that I am not complying, because compliance is slavery and compliance is death. It's the black rocking of our world. And so about 2 years ago, a government official came here, and I got a call from my friend Carlos, who's on the land, my cousin. And he's from Costa Rica, and he's one of the stewards of the land, him and Hota and a few others. And he said, Jim, there's a guy from the government here in front of your house asking to see building permits. And when I got that message, I was about 200 yards to the north on the other side of this food forest. And I got this wave of adrenaline that went through my body. I'm like, oh man, I've been waiting for this. So I stood up and I started walking with spirit. I started walking with intention. And I start walking through the food forest, and I'm looking around and I'm getting the energy off the food forest, right? Which is like a free energy system, literally. And I saw the guy standing in front of my house as I came through the food forest. And I turned on my phone. And by the way, Joseph and everybody listening, what I'm sharing with you right now is a strategy that defeats evil. And I'll just share it with you, and then you could take it. I'm not suggesting that anybody do this. I'm simply sharing what I did. So I walked up to him and I said to him, I said, hello, my name is Jim Gale, and I am recording this conversation. And I pointed to my phone so we don't mix up any words here, because I've had the government lie about things I've said before. And I expected him to say, I'm from the government and I have the right to be here, which is both legally and lawfully not true. But he did not say that. Instead, he said, hello, my name's Alexi. And the gate was open, so I came in, but I will leave if you want me to. And when he said that, it disarmed me, right? I came ready to basically fight with my words. And he was like, I'll leave if you want me to. And I was like, oh my God, I felt his energy. And I liked the guy's energy. Instead of, well, that's might be a good idea. But before you leave, could I show you something? And he said, sure. So I said, follow me. And we walked about 80 yards into the heart of the food forest. And I shared with him, I said, Alexi, it is our duty to our posterity and to everything we love about earth and life and our kids to be the protectors and the servants and the stewards of this land. And he had this little check mark thing, one of those little wooden things with a clipboard. He had a clipboard with paper on it with these little check marks. And I said, if we follow your agency's process, we're all dead, as proven by every HOA community that you have worked with up and down the road. You took a forest and you cut it down, and then you put up row housing and concrete and lawn. And then the worst part, right? I don't mind the row housing that much. I don't mind the concrete that much. The lawn, they spray poisons on their landscape on a contractual basis. I said, the poisons that you guys are spraying, the entities that you're collaborating with, are killing the soil. They're killing the waterways. They're killing the people. There's no birds. There's no butterflies. There's no life in these systems that you are helping to create. And he got tears in his eyes. He said, Jim, you're absolutely right, and I will never bother you again. That was 2 years ago, and they have not been back.
That's what you do. Because a lot of these guys, they feel embarrassed too because they know the
You,
truth.
brother.
What? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Huh. That's weird. I still can't hear you.
So
Well,
I am
keep talking
talking
until you pop in.
No, yeah, no. I can't
hear anything. I can see your lips moving, but I don't
Yeah.
hear anything. And I haven't touched the phone, so
yeah,
that's weird, huh? Anyway,
let's go
I'll
ahead.
keep talking. I do have a lot to share. If you want me, I'll just keep riffing I can't. I'm very excited to share with your audience some epic stuff going on. So what happened is I got an interview, a one-on-one interview with Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy is in charge of the MAHA movement, right? Make America Healthy Again. Well, first of all, I don't trust or believe in anything that the government says. So I'm just going to frame this conversation with that fact. And at the same time, I'm aware that there are many people within the government who have been deceived, just like the rest of us, and they think that government is the way to help right the wrong, to help correct the steering on the ship, right? I don't believe that, but still, I'm aware that the entity exists, and I'm aware that it has great power if it would choose to use the power wisely. And anyway, I'll keep going, huh, Joseph? Okay, so what happened was I got this meeting, and him and Bobby and I were sitting down on this couch in up near Washington. And I said, Bobby, the campaign strategy that I'm going to share with you now will not only win you a fair election. Of course, we know that the elections are rigged, but I was saying this to the guy that was running for president, so I didn't need to get into all that. I said, you will not only win the election, but the campaign itself will change the world. And his eyes opened up big, and he looked at me and he goes, he kind of funny. He goes, okay, well, let's see it. So I got these 4 documents out, and I laid them in front of him. And they were 4 talking points, 4 big claims, right? Everybody knows how politicians love to make big claims. The first claim was, I will take the poisons out of our schools and our children will heal. And he lifted that up and he looked at it, and it had all these details on it. And there was a picture of Bobby Kennedy surrounded by kids at a school. Now imagine the optics of this. And the message is even more powerful than the optics. The message is, when the children practice regenerative agriculture at school, when they use their hands in healthy soil, when they grow food, when they learn about stewardship and creating abundance at the school, then the fact is, and this has been proven all over the world, children that play outside in nature and grow food and tend to plants and dig in the soil are healthier than children who don't. Not only that, but the school, every school in the United States and then around the world would become a nursery. How powerful is that? That is literally, if this is the only thing that we accomplish, every school in the United States becomes a nursery simply by adding the curriculum of gardening class and regenerative agriculture and permaculture to every school. We just solved diabetes and cancer and heart disease. We just ended scarcity by creating abundance, and we just created a foundation of food security on a national and eventually a global basis. And he's like, oh my God, I love this. And you know what I saw? I witnessed Bobby Kennedy become inspired at that moment. His cheeks, he didn't look well. And it was cold in the room, and he was kind of shivering, and his cheeks flushed and they got pink. And he actually jumped up and he was bouncing around. He said, Stephanie, we got to go visit Gall's Landing. Let's go. And so that was beautiful. And since we're still on the line, Joseph, I'll keep going because I'll share the other 3 talking points, and then we'll get to what's happening now. So the next talking point was, I will reduce crime by 50% in the next 4 years. Like, what? How is that possible? Can you imagine a politician saying that they will reduce crime by 50% in the next 4 years? The media would freak out, because nobody's ever said anything remotely close to that, right? In the United States, we have more prisoners per capita than any other country in the world. So how could a politician make a claim like that? Well, here's the funny part. This picture was a picture of Trump, because I had 4 candidates. Remember, this is 2 years ago, way before the election. And I had 4 candidates listed. And he looked at the picture and he goes, but that's not me. And I said, Bobby, it could be you. And he laughed. And anyway, now here's the facts of the matter. When inmates practice regenerative agriculture and gardening in prison, not only did one study and one demonstration of this in California show that the taxpayers saved $40 million, but the recidivism rate, which means the rate of reincarceration, went from 67% to under 10% for the inmates that practiced gardening for 3 years in prison. Boom. We just ended the majority of crime. Everybody out there listening, my friends, share these messages, right? This is the real solution to this war narrative. And then the other two talking points were the one was a picture of Ron DeSantis. I'm in Florida, so I put Ron DeSantis on one. And it said, I will end hunger in the United States, right? Those first two things will already end hunger. But specifically, he was standing in a park and he said, we will turn every park into a food forest, right? Every park, which currently has a lawn, right? The lawn is, there's over there's almost 50 million acres of lawn in the United States alone. When we turn half of that lawn, right? Keep half of it there for, golf and tennis and frisbee and whatever else, right? Then we transition the other half of that lawn, which is almost 25 million acres, into regenerative agriculture, food forests, right? Here's the kicker. What I'm talking about is a system that is far less maintenance than a lawn. And of course, no poisons can be added to these systems. The systems are self-supporting. You give it a little bit of irrigation at the beginning and you build soil at the beginning, and then you put the right plant species in, and nature does all of the work. Within 4 years now, we've turned 25 million acres of lawn into food production systems, and that would be enough to feed the whole United States population. Not only would it feed the US population, but every food forest is by its very nature a nursery. So now people can walk into the food forest and there's all sorts of new plants growing. So now they take the bananas and the sweet potatoes and the apples and the oranges and the raspberries and the blueberries and the thousands of varieties of food that will be growing here. And now they can put those in their backyards and their front yards and turn their neighborhoods into the Garden of Eden paradises that we will have in the future, because that's the direction we're going. There's no other logical way, right? And the other last talking point that I'll share real quick here is to call up the churches. The churches have failed, at least in one way. They have failed to demonstrate stewardship. And so this is an invitation to everybody who goes to church. If you have a church that's surrounded by an ornamental landscape and a lawn, and if you have a church that contracts with BlackRock and poison-producing companies to spray poisons on the lawn, then your church is failing at the most fundamental act of humanity, according to the Bible, and that is to be the protectors and caretakers of our land. Churches that spray poisons, and I've actually spoken at quite a few churches, and before I go into the speaking, I walk around the yard and I look at what they've got, and it's almost universal. Almost every single church that I've been to has a huge lawn, and I've actually picked out the poison signs, and I've walked in and I said, my friends, my goal is not to shame anybody. It's to create awareness, right? Ignorance is not an insult. It's an opportunity, right? I don't call them stupid. Stupid is an insult. No, I say you're ignorant. I'm ignorant in infinite ways. So, and I love learning the ways that I'm ignorant, because by learning it, it elevates me to a new level of awareness, right? So again, we're all ignorant. Big deal, right? Let's go past the ignorance by being willing to accept new information. So what happened is I go into these churches, I say, hey, whoever is in charge of your landscape, and it always starts with the head pastor. And on several occasions, I was not invited back because they were offended by my statements, which is just the ultimate weakness, right? If anybody's called out and invited to do better, if you don't do better, then you're stupid, right? But
I mean,
again, this is not
Jesus
to
was
shame,
even
it's to
casted away
invite
from a lot of
and
these churches.
inspire, right? and create enthusiasm. If you break that word down, entheo, right? The energy of spirit, of God, of creation, of source is what we are meant to live with, right? In this power of now. So, Joseph, you want me to keep going? Because I've got some other good points to share, and I don't know why I still don't hear you. By the way, can your audience hear you if you talk?
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
they
they
can.
can.
They can hear me.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Well, I didn't know that. I just know I couldn't. So go ahead and talk. And when you're done talking, thumbs up and I'll start talking again.
Um, well, there's a lot to unpack there, and so I think that what's really going to help is shifting our lands to more vegetables, more fruits, more herbs, more living soil, uh, more living plant matter, and things that can be beneficial for our bodies, for our family, for our dogs, for the vibrancy of the property, right? It's always like what we see is how we feel, and a lot of times people who are looking at constant beautiful art all the time, or beautiful structures, or like peaceful type of lands, more peaceful vibe, more calming spirit, and if we're gonna help people fall away from, let's just say, a lot of the anger issues, the counseling that people need, I would say, get out of these toxic lands, people who are just stuck in properties that are constantly spraying things around them, or in house in places that aren't really producing good gardens, right? Like a society, like, let's just say, like, I for instance, I know some of the cities over here, or not over here in my state, but cities around the nation, they are constantly showing how these houses are just straight up filled with trash outside, just trash and trash, and like some of these streets are filled with broken down cars, and all sorts of like run downness, and because the city's not paying for anything to get cleaned up, and let's just say the homeless problem is intertwining with that, because it's a constant wreckage, and it's a toxic environment, right? um don't live in those areas, I guess, in a sense, right? Move out if you could, or even just to help heal those areas and heal those people, like, do whatever we can to recreate and shape our environment. uh yeah. Jim, you can go ahead and
All right. Hey, first of all, Joseph, I want to apologize to you and your audience because I assumed incorrectly that if I couldn't hear you, that they couldn't. And I could see that we were live. So I just kept talking. So I surely did not mean to interrupt you. And I have no idea what you just said, but I'm sure it was awesome. So I'm going to now get into some of the functional elements. And by the way, Joseph, please just put your hand up if you want me to stop. And if you just do that and I'll immediately stop. So what has transpired since I've been vocalizing this for really decades, but especially over the last 5 years, is we have attracted a whole bunch of incredible people. And we have attracted people with solutions. Like one of my dear friends is Pat Miletich. Pat was a UFC Hall of Famer. He was the toughest badass in the world. And then he became the best coach in the world. And now he's a soil savior, right? And he has an entity with Dr. Will Spencer called soilsaviors.org. And what they've done is they've accumulated all this microbiome, these living microbes that when you put them in a juice, in a living stew, and you spray them onto the land, these microbes become a catalyst. And some of your audience has heard of forever chemicals and things, glyphosate and all these poisons and toxins. And this product that Pat and Doc Will have put together over decades of study actually eats the heavy metals and poisons. In other words, it'll take those forever chemicals and it'll eat it, and it will shit out bioavailable stuff, right? Nutrients and fatty acids and so on. So it will transform one of the biggest toxins in our world, in our soil, into something usable again, right? Because nature is the solution to everything, right? Stewardship and the wise use of our Earth's natural systems is the way that we win this war, right? And that's why I don't have any faith in government, because I've been invited to all these strategy groups where I'm in the groups with the biggest names in government, right? And I mean, it's politics. It actually drives me nuts. A lot of these people are the least likely to actually be inspired by one of my messages, because they think that the message is through the political craziness, and it's not. The message is you and I. The message is all of us listening, taking steps in our own hearts and in our own minds, and then out in our land. So another thing that we've done is we've started a school. It's called Origins Reclaimed Academy. And this school is the tip of the spear. It is the most profound and beneficial school model that I'm aware of in the world. And it integrates entrepreneurship and stewardship. So the children at the school create a business, and the fundamental aspect of the business is growing food at school. And then they create the social media account and the supply chain, where the students now are running a business creating local, decentralized, poison-free food. So as a result of this idea that has come, we went and knocked on 4 retailers' doors here in St. Cloud, Florida. And we said, this is what we're doing. The kids at the school will be growing food and doing all sorts of natural remedies to bug spray and lotion and everything. And we would like to work with you to sell it at your retail center. You know what they said? They said, oh my God, I love that idea, and we would love to participate, right? So now we're creating a local supply chain where we're going to be calling in all of the local poison-free growers, and we're going to create a direct-to-market supply where the retailers are going to sell the local produce. Now, what will this do? First of all, it'll take the poisons out of the food. Secondly, it'll reduce the cost of food massively, because now, typically, a farmer receives about 10% of the retail value of their food, right? In our case, the farmers, which are the students, are going to receive 50% of the retail value of the food, and the retailer received the other 50%. So now we just made it way better for the grower. We just took the poisons out, and we just created local food security. That is a big deal, my friends, especially right now where the food supply chain has essentially collapsed. And how can you tell? Go to the grocery store and try to find food that's grown without poisons. And now you wonder why people are sick, why the sterilization, the sperm counts and the eggs and the birth rates have fallen off a cliff, why cancer and diabetes and heart disease are skyrocketing. It's all due to the poisons that we use in our food, in our air, and in our water. Joseph, jump in.
He's 100% right, man. I know I talk about it a lot, how to detoxify ourselves and how to free ourselves from all of these chemicals. I was in the military for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear studies, and I quickly learned how to detoxify myself, what to get into our body that is healthy. And people can definitely see I look young, I'm healthy, strong, fit, sharp, because I take care of myself. And it's not that hard, honestly. Just stay away from all the toxic chemicals as much as you can, all the toxic food as much as you can. Don't, over consuming all these sugars and candies, and don't pollute yourself with all these pollutants from in the fields and the sprays. And my newest sponsor, Chemical Free Body, actually works with Pat Miletich. First and foremost, in the link right there in the comments, they created the Super Soldier, which is from peat bog clay, which is it's like fulvic minerals and humic acid, pretty much just healthy stuff. It's like, you know how they say you could put a little bit of baking soda in the water, drink, and it's healthy for you. Well, this is like times 10, and very, very good for your energy, very good for your gut and mind biome, and just your overall vitality. I also have the coupon code 509 Divine Pines over at their website, Chemical Free Body. Tim James actually used to be a very large man. He admitted that, he was larger. He was back in the day, and he worked and got some studies on this stuff, and worked out and started changing his life, and started healing, and started cutting down weight and things, and that's what we need. We need to heal ourselves, heal what we can, and take control of our lives, because these doctors and these companies, I see it all the time. The people who run these programs, these pharmacies, these pharmaceutical industries, these genetically modified organisms and foods, and Kellogg's, and all these big time organizations, they come from families of the slave masters who like genocided a nation that we live in right now, and completely put everybody into slaves through like harmful methods. Well, now they just learned how to do that through foods and medicines, and they don't have to do it through whips and chains and things anymore. They can, break your DNA chains, and so, like, in essence, break your spiritual chains. Like, they're doing more harmful things from within, because these scientists and laboratory people come from the same families of the slave masters, and they admit it. So we need to heal, because the enemy is strong and vigilant, as the Bible says. The devil walks around like a roaring lion, waiting for those who he can devour, and purposely these companies are creating things like Monster and Liquid Death and all these other organizations who are creating super harmful, toxic stuff, like Crumble Cookie, who has like 10 times the amount of sugar you need. And it's like, once you consume those, it's like if you sit there and eat a box of Crumble Cookies, that's like a drug. It's that literally, and scientifically, if you go to the doctor, they'll be like, are you on cocaine? Are you on methamphetamine? Because that's how fast, and that's how much sugar, and that's how it's just crazy. It is insane, right? It's like a drug. And if we're gonna see a change in our youth, and a change in our elderly, and how people are freeing themselves from sicknesses, and freeing themselves from illful patterns that are constantly getting worse. So let's just put it like this: like, the whole idea that the gangster rap in the 90s was created by the CIA, which they also admit, because they wanted to disturb the youth, right? They wanted to divert the youth. In the 70s, 80s, the hip hop stuff was all about spirituality and consciousness, and they were like super chill and positive. And then boom, the bad people came in and diverted it, right? So ever since then, things are getting more wicked with that rap game. Like, from the 90s to the thousands to the 2010s, and now 2020s, we see some crazy stuff with these musicians, and it's spiraling, right? Same thing with the health and these GMOs. It's the chemical program, like Monsanto. It creates a half-life on soil. So every 10 years, if we look at the soil health and the DNA health of soil that's being treated with Monsanto, structurally, it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, like extensively. So at some point within 50 years, there's no DNA left. It's the same thing with our health. Inside of our bodies, we've seen over the last 70 years, the people and the cultures who are stuck in these patterns, it's degrading their life, and their, when people look back, like, oh, my grandpa used to be so fit and so nice and so great. And it's like, well, yeah, like, well, because they weren't on the same chemicals. And it's not just like, we need to eat. Well, there's a real thing on what we're consuming, and the medicines too, where now we see it's a real thing through the Dr. McCullough study, that like the medicine program of the jabs, like, they cause autism, and they cause like deficiencies in the biological state of human, like, it's pretty severe on the long term effects and how our our health can be targeted from within. And if people don't know how to heal ourselves, it's gonna constantly and rapidly degrade us in our lifestyle, the brain. um it's funny, right? We look at ancient history, these pyramids, Stonehenge, all these different places, Temple of Malta, right? Everywhere around the world. And it's like these guys were intelligent. The IQ was off the charts because they were living in living waters, living organisms, on natural substances. The sunlight thing where people were having more sunlight. It's actually a study recently showing that the the world's fastest people here in America are all in the southern climates because they're receiving more sun. And what that does for the body helps produce melanin, but also helps keeps collagen fresh, helps keeps our muscles and our ligaments all working. Through you're in warm climates, so you're constantly moving around and the sunlight is also feeding because there's more sunlight and sunlight is energy straight up. Don't get don't like believe the lie like just if you even be in the sun for an hour you're gonna get like sick or something, skin cancer and anything. No, I mean people can be out there and sun as long as you're healthy, right? You're on good water, you're on good fruits and vegetables. um it's really it's helpful being out there in good climates. I want to have eventually move down there to the south or move to South America, Central America, something along those lines where there is more sun. I'm here in Washington State and I'm looking outside and it's like, man, gray skies. But there's a good amount of summer, from like April to August to end of September. A lot of sun around here. Just need it more. Need a full year's worth of sun, man. I, I'd love it. I would love it. Um, Jim Gale is over there in Florida, so he was yeah, it's three hours ahead. So that's like 7:30 for him. Um, already dark. I think he would have, I don't know, maybe have to go do something, maybe connection. Who knows exactly? But it was a good conversation. We're gonna have to figure out how to have a smoother audio and video with this podcast because I know sometimes it's just the way things work out. That's why I also need an engineer. Whoever wants to engineer for my podcast and be a producer, I definitely could use more hands on deck. I mean, I could keep things running smooth. It's just I could also have more help to make things go smoother. Because that's the way reality works. More people in the company, bigger the company gets. The more things we do, the more products, more reviews, more news, more ideas, more everything. You know what I mean? More is better. Be more. Baltimore, baby. Hey, hope you guys have a good night tonight. And thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. It was just let's see, I think an hour. Let me go ahead and check the actual time for this. About a good 45 minutes. Um he did want to go ahead and show me his garden. We did hop on later than expected. So next time what he has over there with the sustainable garden is a very very productive uh garden. And I'm not even kidding, like you know good amount of a lot of things. I don't know exactly what he's growing, but it's more than a dozen, maybe more than 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen in a very, very professional manner. So it was, it, I believe, following proper patterns and and certain using as much of your climate friendly produce as much as you can. So like whatever you can grow in the climate, he would help you and coordinate with you like exactly how to go about that. If you're wondering how to do it, like if you're a new time gardener and you don't know what you're doing, you could definitely contact him and he'll help you out. And I can help. I just reach out to a lot of people on Instagram out there. Definitely Jim Gale, and like just reach out, people. If you're ever like wondering how to get in touch with nature and anything like there's hey man, you just gotta like reach out to Jim Gale over at the Food Forest Abundance. Reach out to me. Reach out to people, whoever you can, man. Um, Never feel afraid of uniting society or just asking questions. That's what I do here. I ask a lot of questions. I get to the answers. I get to the bottom of things. At this point, it is. Let's see where we at. 4:30, and see you guys next time on the 509 Divine Pines podcast. Be blessed. Be high. Peace.